Welcome back, viewers. Now, a spokesperson for Bill Clinton has accused the White House of using the former president as scapegoat after newly released Epstein-related files included photographs of Clinton with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. The spokesperson said the release was a political move, arguing the administration was trying to deflect attention from what it may still be hiding. Clinton's team stressed that he cut ties with Epstein around 2005 before Epstein pleaded guilty to soliciting a minor. They cited comments by White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles acknowledging Clinton was not on Epstein's Caribbean island despite repeated claims by US President Donald Trump. This comes as the US Department of Justice released the first batch of Epstein files on December 19. The files were filled with names of world's most famous people, including Clinton, Michael Jackson, and Mick Jagger. However, there was one notable exception in the file, that of US President Donald Trump. Epstein visited the White House at least 17 times during the early years of Clinton's presidency, according to White House visitors' records citing in news reports. He later traveled with Epstein on the financier's private jet in the years after he left office in 2001, including to Asia and Africa on trips related the Clinton Global Initiative. Clinton has never been formally accused of any wrongdoing in connection with Epstein. And we have Irina Sukerman, who's a senior journalist. She joins us live from New York. Thank you, Irina, for joining us here at NewsX World. Do talk to us about the impact that the release of the latest batch of Epstein files is having there in US democracy.
So far, it's the biggest impact is actually inside the Republican Party because it's tearing the party apart. This is something that President Trump has campaigned on for several years. He talked about the Democrats and how President Biden refused to release these files. And now all of a sudden there is this sudden lack of transparency that at best breeds suspicion and questions, and at worst smacks of hypocrisy and double standards. And I think a lot of the hardcore MAGA followers of Donald Trump are extremely upset about all of this. And now we're seeing that what is being released is actually much worse than the snippets of information that we're getting out over the years. We're seeing that there were at least 1,200 women who were involved, that Epstein was targeting underage girls, that he had tried to introduce one of those girls to President Trump, that very high-profile figures were involved in all of this, whether or not they actually took part in the sex trafficking or simply enjoyed the atmosphere. Still, it's extremely inappropriate, deeply unethical, and extremely upsetting to a lot of people for a good reason. It raises questions about their views of women, their treatment of women, and there's the content of communications between various parties indicates a high degree of a network that appear to thrive on scandalous and scurrilous material. And likely there were other things involved, not just sex trafficking itself, but money laundering, potentially blackmail, and quite possibly some level of intelligence-related operations as well.
All right. What about the reactions that are coming in, particularly from the Democrats, who are saying that the files are heavily redacted? Of course, certain concerns have been raised as to why the redaction was required. But particularly concerning is that the 19 files that have been removed, on Saturday after being available on Friday, had also a photograph showing Trump. And now there's, of course, increased conversation about Bill Clinton and his association with Epstein as well, but of course he's addressed those claims. But concerning to me more is the fact that the files that were removed had a mention of Trump and his image as well.
Well, it certainly seems like Trump is trying to divert attention from his own very extensive relationship with Epstein, which, by the way, he at various times tried to deny, by refocusing the attention to Bill Clinton. And it's entirely possible that most of Trump's own associations with the story are just that, unpleasant associations, business, unrelated business transactions, and simply enjoying the atmosphere without necessarily taking part in anything illegal. None of it makes the situation any better. The fact that he is doing exactly what he accused his predecessors of doing, the fact that he refuses to hold his own members of his own network accountable for any potential transgressions, the fact that he is refusing to basically explain what he was doing there and why, and if it was innocuous, he could just issue a generic apology for bad judgment, bad decision making, and move on. And I think that would have put the entire issue to rest. Instead, this sort of this removal of evidence, this removal of pictures after promising transparency, after signing off on the law, um, indicates that there may be something more, there may be something darker, that there is some sort of a government cover-up involved, and this is the sort of action that Republicans blamed on the deep state, but now they're in control of the executive branch, and they're the ones who are doing exactly that. They're becoming the deep state that they warned everybody else against.
All right, Irina, do continue to stay on with us. We have some more information coming in regard to the files that have been released. Now, viewers, with the release of the first batch of the Epstein Files, the late sex offender's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell's background has been highlighted again. Robert Maxwell, the father of Ghislaine, was a powerful British media tycoon who was long suspected of working with Israeli intelligence Mossad. Multiple journalists, former intelligence officials and whistleblowers alleged that Maxwell acted as a conduit between Mossad and Western political and business elites. Central to these claims was the Promise software scandal, in which a US government program was allegedly modified with an Israeli backdoor and sold worldwide, allowing intelligence access to sensitive systems. Former Israeli spy Ari Menashe claimed that Maxwell was the key international salesman of this technology. British intelligence reportedly viewed him as a double or even triple agent with links to Mossad, MI6 and the KGB. While never officially proven, Maxwell received a state funeral in Israel attended by senior intelligence Promise, further fueling suspicion about his covert role. And I request Irina to join me back in the discussion here. Irina, what is this Promise software that Maxwell was apparently using for his covert operations?
There wasn't just one software. The stories about Maxwell's alleged connections to Mossad and other intelligence agencies have circulated for years, but the truth of the matter, it wasn't just one thing. He was involved with various types of cybersecurity, cyber software, and he was also linked to various cybersecurity companies. Interestingly enough, Maxwell was found dead under mysterious circumstances, not too different with what happened with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, what's even more interesting that than the software that was being traded in the 80s, because at this point in time it's 80s and 90s, it's that software is completely obsolete, is the fact that Jeffrey Epstein apparently inherited Maxwell's business, because he himself owned a cybersecurity company, and he was also involved in cyber research in other companies. He was an investor in cybersecurity. He was also allegedly linked to research efforts by various individuals, officials in Israel, such as Ehud Barak, but also he was rumored to be linked to Russian intelligence and to various Middle Eastern actors. So it seems to be a long-standing relationship that was passed on through the years, possibly because it was convenient for all involved. When you have a trusted relationship with actors who are willing to do your business without you being directly involved for you, why try to cultivate new assets when you can continue that relationship for many years, and the nature of the business doesn't change just because software or types of operations do.
All right, thank you, Irina, for joining us. But to continue to stay on, as I request to